Hello, I'm Ashkan Moradi. I study Master of Artificial Intelligence at Shekofteh University of Tehran. I hope you are all well and safe from the coronavirus. Today I'm going to present our submitted paper to the 11th International Conference on Computer and Knowledge Engineering. It's called the Genetic-Based Fusion Approach of Persian and Universal Phonetic Results for Spoken Language Identification. First, I'll briefly introduce the spoken language identification concept and the common approaches in that field. Then I will talk about the datasets which were used in our work. After that, I'm going to talk about our two phonetic engine specifications, which one of them is based on the Allosaurus Universal Phone Recognizer and the other one is a Farsi phone recognizer. Next, I will talk about our systems that were developed for this paper. Two of these systems are based on the phonetic approach and three are based on the acoustic approach. Then I will describe our proposed method for the genetic algorithm-based fusion approach. Finally, we will see the results obtained from different experiments and the conclusion. Automatic spoken language identification refers to detecting the language label of a given speech file from a set of predefined languages. There is a wide range of applications that rely on spoken language identification technology. Some of these applications are spoken language translation, multilingual speech recognition, and spoken document retrieval. There are some different approaches to encounter the LID problem. Two of the major groups are acoustic-based and phonetic-based approaches. The acoustic-based approach contains several steps, which are pre-processing, extracting acoustic features like MFCC or STC, extracting I-vectors if the acoustic approach is based on the I-vector concept, and finally modeling the features using a classifier like SVM, LDA, PLDA, or other classifiers. On the other hand, the phonetic-based approach contains pre-processing, tokenizing the input speech into a sequence of sound units, and modeling the features using language models, like n-grams or RNN language models. Now, let's talk about the different datasets which were used in our work to develop our LID system. The first dataset which I'm going to talk about is the NIST LRE'21-A evaluation dataset, which contains both CTS and VOA files. It initially includes 39 languages, but since some of these languages contain a very limited amount of data, we only select 27 languages amongst them. The 27 selected languages are presented in the table. The amount of training data for the selected languages varying from 44 minutes data for Portuguese to 2 hours and 58 minutes data for Mandarin. I should also mention that we separate the files of each speaker and place them only in one set to prevent speaker-related biases. The second dataset is the one that the authors of the Allosaurus paper used to train their universal phone recognizer, which we use as a phone recognizer for one of our phonetic systems. In their paper, they mentioned that they trained and tested their phone recognizer with 12 rich resource and 2 low resource languages, which are listed in the table. They also mentioned that they used 95% of the data for the training and validation set, and the other 5% was used as the test set. The last dataset which we use for our system are the small and a part of the big farstat. First, we split the small farstat into 3 parts, which are for train, development, and test sets. In addition to the part of the small farstat in the training data, we augment the training data with a part of the big farstat. Now I'm going to talk about the front end of our phonetic systems. Our first phonetic system uses the Allosaurus Universal Phone Recognizer for its phone recognition step. Allosaurus is a pre-trained universal phone recognizer that includes 230 universal phones, and it can be used to recognize phones in more than 2,000 languages. It improved phone recognition accuracy over unseen languages by 17%. Our second phonetic system is based on a Farsi phone recognizer, which includes 29 Farsi phones, plus one model as a filler. To train our Farsi phone recognizer, we did the following steps. Since our spoken LID dataset contains files with a sampling rate of 8 kHz, and farstat files are 16 kHz, we used the Sound Exchange Toolkit to convert farce.files files to 8 kHz. Then we extracted 39-dimensional MFCC as acoustic feature vectors, and they were post-processed using mean subtraction, variance normalization, and ARMA filtering, or MVA technique, to construct the phone acoustic model. Finally, we compute the performance of our Farsi phone recognizer in terms of accuracy, which results in 73.82% for the development and 72.31% for the test set. It's time to talk about the LID systems which we used in our paper. We developed two phonetic-based LID systems. One of them is based on the Allosaurus universal phone recognizer, and the other one is based on our Farsi phone recognizer. To train these systems, we tokenized our training samples to their corresponding phone sequences. Then, based on the tokenized training set, we create trigram language models for each language in our LID dataset, which results in 27 language models. We examined different orders of n-gram, which trigram yielded the best result. Next, we calculate the perplexity of each training sample against each language model, and then we concatenate the obtained perplexities to create 27-dimensional feature vectors. Using the feature vectors relating to the training set, we trained a linear SVM classifier. The mentioned steps are exactly the same for both of our phonetic systems, with the exception that for the AUPR system, we used Allosaurus universal phone recognizer, and for the FPR one, we used our Farsi phone recognizer in the phone recognition step. The other approach which we use to implement some LID systems is the acoustic-based approach. We construct some acoustic-based LID systems to compare the results of our phonetic-based system fusion with the acoustic systems. For the acoustic-based approach, we use the I-vector paradigm, and we calculate 400-dimensional I-vectors for each sample in the dataset. To extract our I-vectors, first we constructed a UBM with 2048 components, using the 24-dimensional MFCC features, which were extracted from the raw audio files. Then, the Baum-Welch statistics were computed, and the total variability matrix was constructed using the UBM and the Baum-Welch stats. Finally, a 400-dimensional I-vector was extracted for each file in our dataset, and the extracted I-vectors were modeled using three different classifiers, namely SVM, LDA, and PLDA. Okay, it's now time to talk about our proposed fusion method. We use two different kinds of fusion method. One of them is a simple weighting coefficient for each of our phonetic systems. As it's obvious in the formula, the alpha value is one weighting coefficient, which is varying between 0 and 1. And if we set the alpha to 0, the fusion score is equal to the FPR system. And if we set the alpha to 1, then the final score is equal to the AUPR system. The other fusion method which we propose is based on the genetic algorithm. It calculates 27 different alpha values for each of the target languages exists in our dataset. And again, the alpha values are between 0 and 1. Since we wanted to fuse two phonetic LID and each one has 27 languages, we should compute 54 different alpha values. The first 27 alphas are related to the AUPR system, and the last 27 values relate to the FPR system. After we calculate the optimal alpha values, each score from each classifier is multiplied by the corresponding alpha value, and the linear combination of these scores construct our final fusion score vector for a test sample. As I mentioned, to obtain these 54 optimal alphas, we use the genetic algorithm. The initial population was set to 500, and each chromosome was set to have 54 random real values in the range of 0 to 1. For the fitness function, we use accuracy. The selection method for crossover was based on the roulette wheel algorithm, and we used a single point crossover to generate offsprings. In the crossover step, the crossover point is selected randomly. The selection and crossover steps are done in a loop for a number of crossover times, which is equal to the probability of crossover multiplied by the initial population's number. For the mutation step, we select a chromosome using the roulette wheel algorithm. Then Then we mutate one gene of the chromosome in a for loop, which occurs 54 times. In other words, in the first iteration, the first gene of the chromosome mutates, and then the fitness function is calculated. In the second iteration, the second gene of the original chromosome mutates, and again the fitness function is calculated. We continue this process until the end of the loop, and we get 54 mutated versions of the chromosome. Then we select the one with the best fitness function as the mutated chromosome. The selection and mutation steps are done in a loop for a number of mutation times, which is equal to the probability of mutation multiplied by the initial population's number. After reaching the termination criteria, which is a predefined iteration count in our situation, we select the best chromosome, which has the optimal value of alpha for each language in our dataset. Now, after having our optimal weights, we can calculate our proposed genetic-based fusion and other systems performances. Our first experiment was on the order of the n-grams. For both of our phonetic systems, we select trigram language models because both of them perform better with trigram than other orders of n-gram. The second experiment was to calculate the accuracy of each of our two phonetic-based LID systems. For this experiment, we created a 27-dimensional feature vector from perplexities obtained from trigram language models for each sample, and then we trained a linear SVM classifier using these feature vectors. The accuracies on the development set and test set for each of the phonetic LID systems are shown in the table. The third experiment was to compare our proposed fusion methods with the other systems. As it's shown in the table, our GA-based fusion methods yield the best results on both development set and test set. Our simple fusion with one optimal alpha, which is 0.68 for all languages, also results in 83.33% and 83.77% on the development set and test set respectively. We also fused our systems using the well-known logistic regression model, which yields close results to our GA-based fusion with 86.39% and 84.9% on the development set and test set respectively. As I said in the previous slides, we also constructed three acoustic-based LID systems based on the I-vector paradigm. In this table, we compare our GA-based fusion results with those three acoustic-based LID systems. Amongst the three acoustic-based LID systems, the one with the PLDA backend performs better than the other two. Although this acoustic system results much more better than any of our single phonetic-based LID systems, it couldn't achieve better results than the fusion approach. Finally, to conclude the presentation, we built two phonetic and three acoustic systems. Amongst the acoustic systems, the one which utilized PLDA as the backend yielded the best result. We also proposed a GA-based fusion method to combine the results of our phonetic systems. Although each acoustic system outperforms each phonetic system individually, none of them could outperform the fusion of the phonetic systems. In the end, I have to say that we believe fusing acoustic and phonetic systems can help us more in detecting languages with higher accuracy. Also, if we gather more training data, it definitely helps our systems. Thank you for your attention.